You saw me, huh? It happened one hot summer. 5th graders from the Tama area of Tokyo visited a temple in the mountains of Nagano Prefecture on a school camping trip. It was the final night before they were to return to Tokyo. The girls stayed in the lodgings for pilgrims at the temple, while the boys stayed in the main hall for the night. After dinner and the nightly meeting, the boys returned to the main hall to lay out their bedding. But when they thought about how they'd be returning to Tokyo the next day, they just couldn't bring themselves to go straight to bed. They started by having a pillow fight, then started wrestling and playing around. Lights out! As soon as they heard one of the male teachers call from the hall, the lights immediately went out and the hall fell silent. But as they got under the blankets, they continued chatting about this and that, giggling and laughing together. But as the clock approached 11 and then 12, gradually the boys started to fall asleep and the main hall fell silent. The starlight on the sliding doors faintly lit up the children. Late that night, one of the boys suddenly woke up. He really needed to go to the toilet. Rubbing his eyes, he entered the hall. Although the day had been quite hot, now a chilly breeze brushed past his face. Oh, it's so cold. Suddenly, he was wide awake. He shivered and, scratching the collar of his pajamas, walked down the long hall to the toilets. Gah! Gah! He heard a creepy bird's cry. The hall seemed like a dark tunnel in the starlight filtering through the cedar trees outside. Kishi, 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 kishi. The floorboards creaked with each step he took. He reached the end of the hall and stood right before the toilet. Suddenly, he heard a person sighing and sensed someone right behind him. The boy held his breath and then slowly turned around. But nobody was there. The boy rushed into the toilet. He looked out the open window as he peed, and there he noticed some tombstones. The graveyard was surrounded by bamboo, and the starlight shining down on it almost made it look like an ink painting. Old, rotting wooden tablets and brand new tablets surrounded those tombstones. And each time the wind blew, they made a rustling noise. It almost sounded like the graves were crying. Then he noticed something moving by one of the new graves. The boy's heart screamed in terror. Then, mixed in with the wind, he could hear some quiet laughter. He. He nervously looked in the direction of the voice. And in the starlight, he could see long black hair and a pale woman's profile. She was wearing a white kimono, and she knelt before the fresh grave, digging at something with her hands. A chill ran down the boy's spine. His arms and legs tingled like he was paralyzed, and he couldn't move. Before long, he heard what sounded like something hard being chewed on. The woman suddenly turned around. In her right hand, she held the bones of a dead person, and as she gnawed on it, she sneered. You saw me, huh? The boy screamed before he could stop himself. The very next moment, the woman tossed the bone at him, and then leapt at the toilet window. Her face hit the window frame, and then she fell to the ground. Ugh! Her scream seemed to tear through the darkness. Help me! The boy ran from the toilet as fast as he could. Wait! The woman's hoarse voice followed him. The boy almost tumbled back to the main hall, and then he got back under his blanket and held his breath. Before long, he heard footsteps approaching down the hall. Once they reached the entrance to the main hall, the door softly opened, and someone stepped inside. Those who were sleeping will have warm feet. The one who was in the toilet will have cold feet. The boy's heart pounded so wildly at the woman's hoarse voice that he feared it might jump out of his throat. The woman slowly walked around the hall. He. She laughed hoarsely. Then she knelt by the feet of the boy at the edge of the room. She lifted the blanket and gripped his ankle. Not him. Scratching her hair and slowly shaking her head, and with her knees in front of her, she moved on to the next boy and lifted the blanket. Again, she grabbed his ankle. Not him. She did this again and again, each time saying, not him, not him. And that voice was gradually getting closer to the boy. He pulled his legs in and tightly held them under the summer blanket. Not him. The voice was right there. The boy trembled. His throat was so dry it was almost like it was scorched, and his heart pounded like it was the temple bell. He could sense the woman sliding closer to him. He broke out in a sweat all over. His arms and legs trembled like they were some type of different creature. Finally, she squatted by his feet and smoothed her long hair. Was it you? She said, and then she lifted the blanket. A hand like ice grabbed the boy's ankle as he huddled, and then she screamed, It was you! Ah! The boy screamed, threw off his blanket, and jumped up. His screams woke the other children, and someone turned the lights on. His friends then gathered around him. Hey, what's wrong? Did you have a bad dream or something? They asked, looking around. But that woman was nowhere to be seen. The boy gently touched his ankle. Huh? What's that? His friend screamed. On the boy's ankle, they could clearly see a purple mark that looked just like a hand gripping him.